Hey, everybody. So Happy New Year. The Deep End is back in 2022. It's a month. Yeah, and it's the second month of the year. That is right. But we had to talk some things over. We had to sort out 2021, figure out if everybody's, 50-50 or how we're divvying up prizes, what we want to do differently. Uh, you know, Take a shower, have a drink, enjoy the year that was, and let's start the new one. So we're ready to start that tonight. At the end of the episode or toward the end, we'll have an announcement about the coming year that we're excited about. Otherwise, we're going to talk about players and drafts and just catch up because Adam and I have not been on a show together in maybe a month or so since the playoff challenge. So thanks for joining us and welcome to the Deep End. Okay, it is a new year, so even if it weren't, probably a good idea to say who we are. Right, Adam? That's Broadcasting or Journalism 101. I'm Mike Shope, and this is Adam Krautwurst. Adam is a renowned high-stakes player who, he was born in the deep end, shall we say.
That's right.
I was not. I almost drowned in the deep end of a hotel pool when I was 3. And other than this show, I've always been averse to the deep end, a little bit scared, but had a good year. So did you, I think.
Yeah, no, it was it's good to be back. I would feel we've done maybe I was just looking through show notes. The last time we did this was the FFPC playoff preview was the last time. And I know we're going to be talking about 2022, but that's still going on. The playoffs, I know. The playoffs are still going on. Someone's going to win $500,000. It's not going to be us. I don't think so. But I got a little story if you want to talk about that too. But
sure.
But yeah, no, it's 2021 was a good year, and took a little break, a couple weeks. I'm actually going to Disney in a week and a half, so with the kids, so that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm ready to get rolling on the new year.
Are you close? Are you interested in the playoff challenge or the second round? I don't even know.
Yeah, so I'm my top team I think is 46.
That's good.
But I was up to 7 in the NFC Championship game, and I had Elijah Mitchell against all the Debo people, and Debo went crazy, and Mitchell did absolutely couldn't have done worse, and it dropped me from 7 to 40, whatever. Yeah,
that's tough. I mean, you had the game script right. You had their running back, but the way they use Samuel. It's so complicated for fantasy. You always want to start him, but it was heavy touchdowns. I think he'll be one of the top debates of 2022, right? Because already they're talking about using him as a running back some more. It's the beginning of the new age into sort of positionless skill player football, maybe, which is complicated for us too. But, he's super good. The offense is just what you want. San Francisco just can't make it easy.
Right. No. And you know what? They really shouldn't, right? I mean, at least I'm okay with fantasy situations like Debo and Elijah Mitchell when it's rational coaching, right? Like Debo's so good. Like, of course, give him the rock as much as you can. Now there's that argument now that he gets more running back touches. Is he a running back now in fantasy, or now he's getting banged up a lot? And it's, is it because of all the running back touches? But Debo's a stud. That's a frustrating situation. In fact, I was kind of looking ahead, and I won't do too many like overvalued guys probably tonight, looking at drafts already, but Elijah Mitchell's a guy that's going at, I think the 3-4 turn. I think I saw him, and we can look at a draft where it's just like San Francisco running backs generally haven't been the guy back-to-back years. And so, and I don't even think Elijah Mitchell's like some super talent either. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
See, I disagree on that a little bit. We agree on how the team makes it challenging, but boy, Shanahan loves Mitchell, doesn't he? Like, wasn't that evident through the season? I mean, he was injured sometimes, but yeah, in the playoffs, he gives the ball to Mitchell or Debo. He didn't have Mostert, and he didn't use Sermon, even though he was active. He didn't ever turn to Sermon. So
yeah,
Mitchell, it's a rookie season. He still has some juice, or a lot, as long as they want to be a little bit more traditional. And they'll have a new offensive coordinator too, unless, you just assume it's all Shanahan, right? Because Mike McDaniel left for the Dolphins. So that'll be a fun one. It's early. That'll be a fun one to talk about what Deebo Samuel is, what that means for Ayuk. Do they have a new quarterback? What that means, how it's different if Trey Lance is under center. And, I want to say he probably will be, but I was thinking that way 9 months ago. I thought once they drafted Lance the way they did, there's no way they would keep Garoppolo on the team. And he played them all the way through to the NFC Championship. Anyway, this is not a San Francisco episode. We don't have Billy. I do have wine in Billy's honor, but we don't have Billy, so we don't have to talk only about the 49ers.
No, he's Billy Musia, the big Deebo apologists, and Elijah Mitchell. So,
they worked out. All right, so we have drafts. They're starting even earlier than last year, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't know that was possible, that we were just starting.
I know.
It's crazy. It's wild. Like I read a tweet today. Somebody was already 60-something underdog drafts deep, and they're already building their portfolio. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm already thinking ahead. My last draft from last year was a main event in Vegas on like a Friday night or whatever it was. And I just remember being like, cheers. This is the, 9-10 months culminating in this one main event draft. And I hate the thought of drafting this. This will be fun, this little stuff here, but Dynasty is really what I want to get more into for sure, rather than just these like little best ball tournaments.
Well, we were out in Las Vegas together. You had that auction draft, which was not the last one, but you did win that league. So
yes.
Was that maybe Thursday morning where you had the auction, or Friday morning?
That was definitely a morning. Yeah, that must have been Thursday morning. Yep.
I think so. So congrats on that. Well, it is early, but I don't really believe in too early. Like you have the same information, or maybe a little bit more than the next guy. That can be possible too. I like that the FFPC never too early tournament is confined to these early months, so that as opposed to some of the bigger tournaments, you're not playing against players who are drafting in September. So I think that that's smart, and it seems to be very popular. So I am in one, and we'll get to my board. We'll get to yours first, where I want to get your advice, because I seem to be having the same problem in every draft. But we'll wait on me. You're
do you want to do FFPC, Mike? Is that what you want to look at first?
Well, I want to do yours in whatever order you would prefer to do them. We'll get to mine later. But the one I'm in, I'm in Underdog too. I've never really warmed up to Underdog. I don't know what it is. It's cheap.
Yeah.
So that's good, but it's also, I'm spending less time there. For bare knuckle, I want to put more cheap drafts in on Underdog, and it's basically more practice. But, with every new site, you have to sort of figure out, especially when you're 50, you got to figure out how it works and how to use it. And I've just been slower to that one. FFPC has just become, the one for me. So,
yeah, I see Underdog as, like you said, practice because this is the deep end. We love our high stakes here. So,
right.
I guess if you do enough $25 drafts, it becomes high stakes. You probably have to do 1,000 of them, but yeah, I just look at it as practice, just to kind of get a feel for the room on ADPs and stuff like that. So, that's kind of what
if I can stop you, what you have to remember or price into that, so to speak, is that it's probably the same, or largely the same group of us who just can't get enough. And you're going to fool around at that price point. The people who are going to play in the main event are not going to just be the same drafter, probably in the $25 room. And then you get to the point which you can't account for really as an opponent or a competitor, when they're playing against themselves for diversification. And so that makes it tougher too. But they are fun. That's the point.
Right. So I got a draft here. I don't like that view. Let's do this. So just did this one yesterday. It's my first one. It's the big board tournament on Underdog here. This is a pre-draft tournament, and I really liked the first couple of rounds. So I ended up getting the 6th pick. I feel like in every underdog I ever get, I get the 6th pick. But so yeah, I am the draft guy as usual. And what I like to do in best balls is I'm pretty RB heavy early. And we'll talk a lot about best ball and a lot about different draft styles and types, all year. But I'm flexible, like during high regular draft season, non-best balls, auctions, main event, stuff like that. I'll go 0 RB. I'll go hero RB. I'll do whatever it takes to win. But in best balls generally, I'm an early RB guy. And the main reason for that is because I feel like if I draft a bunch of late receivers, that I just need one of them to pop off every week, long touchdown catch, to kind of fill out my roster for me each and every week. And I feel like I'm pretty good at stacking offenses in the mid to late rounds to, again, kind of get the stack and the late, the kind of the one big play from the receivers. It's harder for running backs. Like if the running back isn't starting, he generally isn't going to get that one big play. I understand the whole 0 RB thing. While running backs get hurt more, so you have a better chance of like a mid-round running back starting a whole game for you more than a receiver would. But I'm looking for that one big play from my 15th round pick or my 17th round pick to get that starting week for me. So I'm going to pound running backs early, and that's what I did with Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, and Saquon Barkley.
Well, I think the order is really interesting already this year, because mostly you'll see, if you keep watching, that there is variance at this, but mostly Jonathan Taylor is the 1-1 in these drafts. After that, so run them down on this list: Henry, McCaffrey, Eckler, Najee. I mean, you could find drafts where any of those guys goes second. So the order there is TBD. I think McCaffrey has pulled ahead. So McCaffrey is maybe seeing him at 1. We're seeing him at 1-1. Like he is, I think, the consensus second running back, if not second pick. But Eckler, there's an argument. Henry, Najee Harris, volume. You have teams where, starting with the Steelers, you don't know what quarterback will be like, and that will mean a lot. Dalvin Cook was the second pick last year, mostly second running back for sure. Coaching change. I don't know what's at 12 in this draft. Can you slide over?
Sorry. Let me see. I don't even know if I can. Let me zoom out.
Okay. Well, Kamara is going to be all right. So no running backs at the turn, but Kamara has a problem right now, and he'll be slipping in any drafts that are happening right now. Mixon, fine. Javante Williams, Swift is 10. Chubb is 11. Take Akers at 12, running back 12 by my count on this list. Do you trust? Because he's on a great team, talent, age, everything works. But do you trust him to stay healthy off an Achilles, and so on? I like Gibson a lot. I mean, Gibson for me is like 6'7", and here he is at 13. You get the point. There's just a lot of names. I think last year this was seemingly true after running backs 3 or 4, where you had Cook and then Kamara or Henry. Then after that, there'd be different orders. But this year, I think as we get going, Adam, that list sort of changes earlier than last year, and maybe it's even deeper.
Yeah, and my thing is too, like I understand underdog is three wide receivers and stuff, but you have to start 3 wide receivers. But again, like I just want young, like in the first round, like I just want young running backs that don't have a ton of tread on their tires. Now I say that, and I've got Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. Not all my teams are going to look like this. I won't have a ton of Saquon Barkley, but again, if he's in the mid-3rd round, I mean, you could if they're talking about Saquon's on the trading block. I mean, this guy, even if he stays there, I think Brian Daboll is smart enough to know how to use his players, which can't be said for all coaches. If Barkley stays there, I think he's fine. He could get traded to. There's rumors to Buffalo, which I know we would, you would hate the maybe the thought of giving up a top pick for him, and I probably would too.
I don't know what he would cost.
Right, that's it. I mean, if he's any team, if you can get Barkley on a 1 year, because he's got 1 year left. I mean, a third round pick. I mean, if someone's trading for him, they're going to make him a workhorse. I think he got really unlucky with the injuries last year. I mean, that sprained ankle was so unlucky. So I think there's just an opportunity to buy low right now on Saquon. Chubb's a workhorse, but Najee Harris is the guy in the first round. Like, I'm going to be taking him over Dalvin Cook, over Kamara, over Derrick Henry for sure, over Eckler. I just want a guy that, he's only going to go up. That offense is only going to get better without Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to make a decent move for somebody and not go in with, I don't even know who the bag was. I can't think of the backup quarterback right now off the top of my head, but
Rudolph.
It's not Duck Hodges, but it's close.
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. So there's talk about maybe Jimmy Garoppolo or something like that, but I just see Najee's ceiling going up. He's younger. I love Javante Williams. Like, I just want guys who haven't had the crap kicked out of them for 3 or 4 years. Like, guys who are going to be on the field, be active. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. If I'm taking a first round running back, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, it'll be so interesting because some of those guys who are older have been given pretty good money. That's Cook, right. That's Kamara, that's Ezekiel Elliott, McCaffrey, of course, Derrick Henry, of course. And so you have this mix-in, right? You have this almost like a battle between their franchise's commitment to them. Like, if you're paying them, you decided to pay the running back. So what are you going to do? Not use him? Like, that was your decision. Assuming the same GM is in place. Like, Barkley is unique or relative to that group because it's all new, except for the owner. It's all new people with the Giants. They don't have to think any certain way on Barkley.
Yeah.
But the guys who have the contract, their team should want to use them, all else equal. So what does that mean? You want to sort of run them out, maybe. Like Dalvin Cook could be somebody like that where we're paying him. We can't just sort of limit his usage. And then you have the younger guys who are on the rookie deals or the younger deals, and they're kind of the opposite. You don't know as well about their franchise's commitment. The pearls are like a Jonathan Taylor, and I think a Gibson, who are both. I mean, you have the same coach. You have reason to think their team is going to love them, and they're not old. So,
right.
Najee Harris is like that too. There's change there, and I don't think he's particularly good. I mean, I think Gibson is good.
I agree.
Harris got so much volume. Anyway, they're all a little bit different. All these running backs are a little bit different, but there's interesting arguments all around. And, first 4 round guys all the way down to Mitchell, or that's the beginning of 4, I guess, in this draft, or Jacobs. I like Jacobs. Like, they each have their own set of pros and cons that should lead to just maybe wildly different sets of rankings out there.
Yeah, and to kind of go off some of the old guys you were saying, you got Zeke in the 5th, Aaron Jones. Like, am I missing something on Aaron Jones? Is he bad all of a sudden? Like, I know Dylan's there, but he was a first round pick. He was a turn pick last year. I mean, I know we got him in the pros versus Joes at the end of the second, but he was going, early second round last year. Like, I think he's a really good player. Like, that's a guy. I ended up taking Breece Hall here because, again, the young running back thing. Like, I think that he's going to get drafted as the starting running back somewhere, and I think his stock doesn't go any lower than this after the NFL draft. So, but I was going to take Aaron Jones there, like, for sure. But you got Zeke's the older guy, Devin Singletary in the 6th round there. It really starts to thin out, but yeah, that's interesting. I know your thoughts on Zeke, but what are your thoughts on Aaron Jones?
He's another one. He also has a contract,
right?
So
yep.
With Aaron Jones, you have the contract as some level of proof that you can trust that he would get play. But then Dylan has draft status, and they're both good. I mean, I think Dylan is good. So quarterback uncertainty, what does that mean? It's really, really hard. ETN is in that round, and I've been putting my chips in on him.
Really?
Yes. The risk is really the coaching staff being different. But how could that be a bad thing?
Right.
for Jacksonville? Like, I'm finding it like 80-20 in favor of ETN for his price, which is good for these running backs because so many of them are closer to 50-50. But ETN is super talented. He hasn't played a down in the league, so very young. He's supposed to be healthy and versatile. Like, he'll catch the ball, of course. I still, not only do I want to trust the talent of the quarterback and then this player in Jacksonville, I sort of want to over trust it, if you will, because so many people will be sour on them from last year or the last 15 years mostly. Like, there'd be a give up. The fact that Lawrence played that season, there will be a give up group on Jacksonville. And I think I'll want to be on them because of that. They should be undervalued. And so ETN is interesting to me. Robinson, it's an Achilles. Maybe Cam Akers will have people thinking that you should be able to come right back to Achilles.
Right.
So I'll show you my draft later. I drafted ETN earlier than this.
Okay. A guy that's been like super intriguing to me. And I took him, I did a bunch of drafts in Florida with the Draft Sharks guys. You took a part in a couple of those. And I found myself taking J.K. Dobbins a ton. And, I get the whole last year wasn't super high on him because of he's not going to get the pass catching or whatever. I have a gut feeling. I have an instinct that J.K. Dobbins is going to be burning a hole in the Ravens' pocket. It's 2 years now. They spent a high draft pick on J.K. Dobbins. They didn't use him his rookie year because that was stupid. He was the best running back there. And then last year he tears his ACL. He's going to be a full, almost a year and a half, recovery off this ACL. He's going to be burning a hole in their pocket to use him. They got the star quarterback coming off an injury. I just think Dobbins is going to end up getting a massive workload, catching the ball if they're going to throw it and because they've been waiting to unleash this guy for 2 years. And I think they're going to unleash him. And I think he has a chance to be a top 12 back.
I like that argument a lot. How they feel about Jackson. Jackson is still waiting to get paid. And, last year they started pretty well in terms of his passing and their passing offense, but he got hurt anyway. But still, you just see too many clips of Ravens route trees where they're all running into each other. It's not the NFL. Just something about that offense passing wise. It's not what we've seen in the AFC playoffs from other teams. How about that? So I like this argument on Dobbins. I think the world of Jackson. He's my favorite player in the league. So, I'm definitely not down on him, but do they try again? Is there a free agent receiver there? Bateman is good. Brown is suspect. After that, I still don't know really what they are. Andrews is a lot of what they are passing wise. But I think you made good points on Dobbins, and I am certainly not going to be off of him.
Yeah. So, lots of we could break down this draft for hours, but it was just interesting to kind of get my feet wet, and kind of get my running backs, and I probably shouldn't have taken, hindsight, maybe passed on Breece Hall here and took a receiver, but I didn't. I guess Pittman would be the only guy there. I don't like Amon-Ra. I hate the fit.
You don't?
I don't. I think he's a fine player. I think he kind of reminds me of a Golden Tate. Maybe that's because he's a Lion. Yeah. But I think they're going to bring somebody in and or draft somebody. So I think he's going to end up being the number 2 on the pecking order there. So let me say I don't like him in the 5th. I think he's going to end up being a number 2, or if Hockenson comes back healthy, which I'm sure he will, he could be the number 3 option there. And then you got Swift who's catching the ball. So I don't love him there. And so I don't really like these middle rounds, this 5th, 6th round. So I went with Breece Hall. And interesting here, it kind of blew me away to see. I get it, but my last take on this draft was Josh Allen at the 212. When was the last time? I wasn't around when Kelly was going at the 212. Okay, in these drafts, but to see the Bills quarterback Allen be number 1, he was the number 1 fantasy quarterback back-to-back years, which hadn't been done in years. To go back-to-back number 1. So it's good to see that there. I'm interested to see if he's just going to take Patrick Mahomes' spot from the last couple of years, and they're just kind of flip-flop. But what do you think about that?
First of all, when Kelly was going at the 212, it wasn't the 212. It was the XII. It was that long ago. So
that's right.
Go Bills. Allen is the quarterback 1. I think he will be all the time. in these drafts. He's proven it. The running is there. The offense will be the same. I think Mahomes is fine at 2, just like Allen was last year.
Yeah.
And depending on where you're drafting or who you get instead, I mean, there'll be times when you're drafting the lesser quarterback all the way down to a certain point. With quarterback, there is a line at around 10 or 11, after which you really don't know whether they're going to play. Like even
Right.
Jalen Hurts, who was valuable in fantasy, you really don't know what that is. Lance and Fields, Kirk Cousins, obviously.
Yeah.
Wentz as you keep going. Russell Wilson, I'd put above that line, but he and Rodgers could end up on new teams. You'd still expect them to play, though, so they're not the same thing. Hurts, Cousins, the rookies from last year, Watson, and Lawrence Wilson, also rookies or Zach Wilson. I mean, Tua. It's really hard to decide which of these guys right now when you're drafting in best ball you expect to have be on the field. I see Daniel Jones on your roster.
Yes.
And I'm drafting him.
Yes.
Because it's just sort of it's been made clear, I think, that the Giants want to give him one more chance. And that's been made clearer than some of these other guys, who are older, or even Tua. So I'm on Daniel Jones, and I think there's an athlete there. I think there's a chance for him. And so even in Dynasty, for his age, I feel like he can be had cheap, and I'm interested.
Yeah, I love Daniel. I was just going to say that's kind of a sleeper right now. Dable did really well with Josh Allen, and now he's got Daniel Jones. It's kind of a Josh Allen light. He's athletic, kind of sneaky athletic. And they can get some weapons there even if they just keep everybody that they have. Galladay's another guy. I got him in like the 14th round of another draft. Like, does Galladay stink? Like, no. Like he had an unlucky year, he had a bad year. The offense was terrible. It was a complete mess. Daniel Jones was hurt a bunch. Like, I feel like Dable can get he can get them just halfway decent on the right track. I think these Giants guys can certainly outperform. And Daniel Jones for sure is a guy that I'll probably be drafting a ton as like my second quarterback in the last round of most of these, maybe not the best balls, but most of the regular 20-round drafts, I'll be taking him as my second quarterback. But
let's move over to FFPC, Adam. We both have one to show. So in this one, you are 101. Look at that. Wait a minute.
That's right.
I can't see so good. Is that Christian McCaffrey? What year is this? Who's the second pick? Odell Beckham? No, Jonathan Taylor. Wait a minute. Did you take Christian McCaffrey ahead of Jonathan Taylor? Did you do that?
Mike, I couldn't. The thought of McCaffrey when he's on the field not being the number one running back, I can't not do it, right? And I just last year never having the number one pick in any of my like major drafts. None of the main events, none of the the 3K, nothing like that, and not being able to get my guy. It ended up obviously working out, not having him last year, but there's no way when he plays he isn't sensational, and like maybe he does, maybe he is injury prone, maybe he's undersized, and maybe he's toast. But I'm gonna bet on him not being toast and catching 8 balls a game and being absolutely insane. And so if I have the number one pick 10 times, I will not do Christian McCaffrey 10 times, obviously. But I just felt like for the first time I had to get it out of my system, and I feel good about it.
I don't blame you. I don't think he's toast either. What is the rest of the offense? Could it be worse? Really, like, he's older, but then back to the point about how he got paid. Like, he got really paid.
Yeah.
And the bet against McCaffrey is an assumption that he's injury prone, or that because he's had so many touches. If you want to give somebody enough credit to sort of not play in the injury prone space, they could tell you that the number of touches worries you about McCaffrey. That's just true of a lot of other guys. Like Kamara is the same. Dalvin Cook and of course Henry are also guys that you could say the same thing about. And not all of them have had the injury risk. So I love McCaffrey. I don't know about over Taylor, but I think there's an argument for it. If McCaffrey's on the field, with the catches he gives you, if he can stay on the field and play like a regular role, almost even to the role he used to have, because that is maybe unattainable, then he should equal the top players in fantasy football. He should be able to do that. He hasn't had great teams. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So
And
I am not somebody who bets against guys because of injury history. Like, I just feel there might be a super smart, narrow path to doing that effectively. But what I would rather do is find people who know what that looks like, and then they'll tell me what to do. And on McCaffrey, I feel like there's an overall sense of optimism for him.
yeah, exactly. And I feel, he turns 26 in June. And I know it's kind of a weird thing to say, but his body, because he's been hurt, his body hasn't been banged up like the last two. Like, he hasn't been taking hit after hit after hit after hit because he's been hurt. I know that might sound crazy, and that might be me just trying to force it, but yeah, I just love. And again, if I've got the number one pick 10 times, I'll take obviously some Jonathan Taylor and I might even take more JT than McCaffrey. But I just feel like when healthy, when on the field, he's the best fantasy football player out there, next to Cooper Kupp, obviously. So I feel fine with McCaffrey. And here's the thing: like, he's been going at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just have to ask yourself, do you think McCaffrey is going to be healthy most of the season? If your answer to yourself is yes, then you need to take him 1 or 2. If your answer is no, then you don't really take him at all. Like, you just pass on him. But if you think he's going to be healthy most of the year, which you can't decide that anyways, you just have to kind of make it up to yourself, then you take him because he's an absolute stud. Nothing's going to change. But yeah, so this was it. This is a $125 best ball, never too early, over at FFPC, popping into these end, I think, the day of the NFL draft, Mike, the morning of.
Is it that late?
I think it's that late.
Okay.
So these go all the way through. And so, Henry was at the 7th spot here. Javante up to the 8. I think we saw him in the mid-second in the draft we just looked at. What's your take on Javante Williams? I love young stars, like young running backs that don't have a lot of wear on their tires here.
Yeah, I think I'll end up with less of him than average because there is a lot of hype going off of last year. Last year he did not get the full-time role, but he impressed the people who largely were impressed with him before. And so you have sort of, hey, blackjack, I lost that hand, but I knew my process was good. I'm going to put my chips in further on Javante Williams. I mean, drafting on February 8th, if it's Rodgers, then that could be good. Aaron Jones has had huge years for Green Bay with Rodgers, but it could also be a different breakdown where you have the receivers and just a different allotment, carries, touches, points. All I really want to say is I think there are plenty of people in fantasy football who love him. And I really don't. I'm not negative toward him. I just don't love him. So in this draft, for instance, if I'm up at 8, my pick is Tyreek Hill. Okay. Because, do we not know what that looks like?
Right.
I think with the running backs, I wouldn't be afraid to wait on running back until at least round 2. Again, I'll show you my draft where I did take Tyreek Hill in a moment. I want a sure thing. I think part of the fun of drafting this early is the randomness and the variance that we know is coming, because we all have friends who say, well, how can you draft this early? But it's a level playing field. And a lot of us doing it, especially if we're not playing for the biggest price points, which you can't be this time of year, we just want to try things, and get into different players and try different, roster builds and things like that. And I think that means there's a little bit extra value in guys who are safe or quote safe. And so for me, Tyreek Hill personifies that even more than Adams, of course, because Adams' situation may change. And for me, Tyreek Hill is wide receiver 1. Cooper Kupp just coming off an all-time great season, but I don't think he's great in the same way that other receivers like a Jefferson is. And I could see in the second year with Stafford there, maybe it's more challenging. It can't be the same. It could be a fall off like Stephon Diggs had this year from winning categories last year. He did not win the touchdowns, but receptions and yards. And so I mean, I feel like Kupp is almost the argument I'm making for Javante, which is there are going to be people who are in a sprint to get to Cooper Kupp, and I don't know that I will be. It's very early, and I reserve the right to change my mind. But Tyreek Hill for me is number one. I think I'm trying to find these areas where maybe the market is a little bit too one way.
Yeah,
and I think in terms of Kansas City, there might be some pessimism about the Chiefs, how the season ended, how the season felt overall, and so they could add somebody on that offense. They should have a year or two ago already. They tried with Watkins, but add somebody really useful at wide receiver 2 on that team that's actually good, and that should be good for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no, I get it. If I had to, I mean, I hope Cooper Kupp, if you're listening, okay, I am so appreciative of what you did for me this year. I bought your jersey. I'm locked in, ready for the Super Bowl. So excited for you. But earmuffs Cooper Kupp, because I think Jamar Chase to me might be the number one. And not again, Tyreek Hill's great, Justin Jefferson's great. I just think Jamar Chase is a Hall of Fame talent like Mike Evans. And I think he is going to just always be. And there's something to be said about, like, you don't have to, if you pick a receiver number one, he doesn't have to finish number one. There's something to be said about a guy that, like, he's going to be a top 3 or 4 receiver. Like, lock it in. Like, and I think that's what Jamar Chase is. I think that's what a healthy Cooper Kupp is. That's what, like, Tyreek Hill is. Those guys are going to be top 5. They're not going to bust outside of, like, injury, right? So I think, and I just love Jamar Chase. I love his game. I love, I really want to root for him. He's exciting, and he's a superstar talent with a great young quarterback and all that stuff. Everyone knows that. But I think Jamar Chase, if I had that pick at 5, I think I would probably pick Chase more times than I would take Cooper Kupp.
It's fun. It's just starting.
I know.
There's, like, you got 20 or 19, 21 players posted here, and there's a half an hour of discussion about any of them. Deandre Swift, like, we're talking about all those running backs. You never mentioned Swift, but he could. There's an argument for him at least in the first round, depending on what you think Detroit does. We just don't know. There's so many teams we just don't know what they're thinking and what their plans are. Free agency yet to happen. Not to mention the draft.
You want to go over to your draft, Mike?
Yeah. Look, before we do, the next 3 picks in yours.
Oh.
Does the Kelsey guy go to Pitts, or does the Taylor guy go to Pitts, or would you go to Pitts?
That's a great question. I don't think I would go to Pitts. I probably would just do what I did in this spot last year. I went
receivers.
Well, receivers. Yeah. I mean, again, this is best ball, so I reserve the right to change that. I mean, again, we're going to have Saquon Barkley will be there, but there will be some great receivers there. Metcalf, yeah, you know what I mean? There'll be a lot of good options there, but I loved going heavy receiver after that. But like I said, it is best ball, so I can see myself taking another running back there. But yeah, I would be excited to turn. It'd be interesting. I don't think the Kelsey guy would go. I'm interested. To see him go top 3 again. I love the thought of taking Mark Andrews again this year. I just think he's so good. The offense revolves around him, and he had so many great moments last year. Or this year. He had so many moments this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just
he's the 15th player off here.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit like Waller last year to me. Where Waller had a bang-up year, and then he slowly sort of elevated on these drafts to the point where he was going mid-first round in some of the main event or football guys. Andrews is decidedly tight end 2, or he's decidedly top 3. And Waller and Kittle are outside of that group, and Hawkinson even. So that'll be really interesting this year too, because tight end is so important in these. And if I were you, I'd want one out of those 2 picks, or else who am I getting?
Right, that is true too, because I do like to get one of the elite ones, or top 5, whatever it is. It changes every year. One of the top 4, 5, 6, and then just leave it alone, because it's it's gross after that. There's usually one or two that you find, the Dawson Knoxes or whatever, but who knows who they're going to be. And I don't want to be dancing in the Irv Smith waters again this year. Those are some scary waters. Okay.
Lake Irv Smith with the Tyler Conklin tributary. Not
That's
ideal.
right.
Not ideal.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's move to mine. It's the same tournament, and I am team. You want me to show the names? I didn't know if I should be doing that.
So I think it's so early it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll get that up so you can see, because you'll recognize a couple of names.
You are in control of that. So
there.
Okay.
Do you see that? There.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So because I am loyal to my brand, am Deep End MS as opposed to Draft Guy. I mean, that was his brand before this brand. So fine. Oh, there's Lenny.
Oh, is that Win Lenny's Money picking out of the 2 spot?
Lenny in the 2, Lenny Papano. There's Bip in 4.
Okay.
Spearmint Rhinos is famous.
Yeah.
You have Analytics. It's Louis in 11. Like, this is a little bit reminiscent of that Memorial Day draft where, like, oh, everybody's in the room. Great. Super.
That's right.
So there's my Tyreek Hill bet at 106.
Wow. Impressive.
Where's Javante Williams? Late 2.
Late 2. Steal by Bip, of course.
I said earlier that I have a consistent problem in drafts. I'm in a dynasty startup. The same thing is happening. It feels like it's always happening to me. In the Draft Sharks Invitational, I made a special effort to avoid having this problem. So I pushed up quarterbacks, and I finished in the middle because Dak Prescott, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson didn't exactly win me Lenny's money in that one. So I'm trying to get right here. Okay. So I don't have a quarterback yet, and you got to stack them, and it's best ball, and I'm scared. So the last 3 picks have been quarterbacks in round 7. I was hoping to get Wilson, but Adam, I had to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I had to have him, and I still have this hang up about, you have ADP list, you have Fantasy Mojo, or whatever other information you have, and it's a round early, and it's how I was raised, like a round early is early.
Yeah.
And it just feels like I'm paying sticker. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit hard for me to it'll be a good challenge for me this year, is the idea of sort of jumping in earlier than you're supposed to, so to speak. And anyway, Wilson with Metcalf would have been good, but that isn't going to happen, assuming Wilson's even on the Seahawks. And now there's Hurts, there's Lance, 11 quarterbacks taken. I will feel like I should take one here in the middle of 7. But if I don't, everybody behind me has 1 or 2, and maybe I'll just want to double down and wait again.
Yeah, I think at this point, so I feel like the quarterback run went a little early in this draft. Best ball can get crazy. Best ball, I always am okay with taking a quarterback a little bit ahead of schedule because you do get those runs. There's no free agency. You got to have 2 or 3 of them. So you want to make sure that you get one. You got a little unlucky here, obviously, with 4 of them going, maybe even a 5th one before it gets back to you. But yeah, at this point, I would probably just wait with all the guys with quarterbacks after you, and make them pay for taking those quarterbacks early. But then that just means you take your 2nd and or your 3rd quarterback a little bit earlier than you normally would. But yeah,
look what just happened.
Pittman, look, the guys, he's watching, he's taking him on the clock. Lockett, Pittman.
It's late. That's late for Lockett.
That is late for Lockett. Was what? Wide receiver 16 last year? What did he end up being? He was still pretty decent.
He's been round 5 in some of these. So
yeah, no, that's wow.
I guess I'm up.
Are you going live right now? Live on the deep end? Or do you want to think this over with a coffee or something? You want to
Well, yeah, I think the pick is Justin Fields.
Yeah, because he's the starter.
Right. Starter, yes. Upside, yes.
Yep.
New coach. I mean, it's all Justin Fields now, so As far as stacking, that'll get a little bit challenging, but it's not impossible.
Now, do you think Fields makes it back to you?
I'm up.
No, but I mean, do you think if you pass on him, do you think he makes it back to you?
Well, who else is there? I mean, you have.
Is his number one receiver there?
He's on the board. I mean, he's not drafted yet.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe could you go that route?
Is that what you would do?
Probably. That's probably because he's right now. Like I took him in the. Oh, this is so much fun. I took him.
Where's my face? What happened, by the way? Are we still on?
Yeah, you're on. Sorry. Let me.
I'm looking at this board and feel like I'm on the phone. All right, so we're on camera though. That's still a thing. Okay. Good.
Maybe. Who knows? I don't even know. I'm just looking. I'm looking at the board. There you go.
Ah, there I am. Good.
There he is.
Just what I needed to see myself.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I took Mooney in the. Oh, where did he go? I took 6th or 7th. I took him in the 6th of the underdog. So here's available in the 7th, and you can get Field. If you could go Mooney Fields, that's what I would do. But in order to do that, I think you got to go Mooney first. But hopefully, no one's watching.
I mean, what is my quarterback situation if I take the receiver and Fields gets picked, which is very possible?
Great question. Are you comfortable with the next? Listen, if you love Fields, and you know how I feel about Fields,
I like him.
Then you could also take him here and hope that Louis isn't listening and doesn't take Mooney on the way back.
Well, I mean, who is the quarterback? Who am I going with? I mean, it's Cousins, which is risky. That's a very risky player right now. In
is Rodgers gone?
Rodgers is still up.
There's Rodgers. Yeah, then that's it. I mean, everyone else is just the same. Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Tannehill. Ugh. Yeah.
Rodgers, Adam, really, there are many more stack opportunities with Rodgers.
Yes.
Although we may not know where he's going to play.
Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, you could draft Jerry Jeudy.
Jerry Jeudy, who will be traded for.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Lazard. The Denver guys. Yeah, that could just get pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to draft now, but I've got to. Should I?
No. Take your time. Take your time.
I'll make sure the deep end R&D department is notified, and therefore the word can be out what I do.
That's right.
But, Tyreek Hill, Pitts, Metcalf, Jacobs. Quick thought on Jacobs. I'm fine. It's a new coach, but he's not, too old. He is pretty good. He started to catch the ball a little bit. Josh McDaniels there. Maybe they divvy it up a little bit more. I don't know who the quarterback is. It's so early. Again, it's always the point. But I'm fine with Jacobs in the middle here.
Yeah. Kev Wheeler in the chat says, don't follow the QB run. Okay. Yep. Everyone else isn't going to take their second one, which is a great point.
It is a great point. It is a great point. You do have the team on the end has taken 2. So I don't know what
exactly.
Would you do that? I probably would not do that.
I mean, having Rodgers
and Herbert,
having Rodgers as a backup plan too. Like if Fields does go, or if Rodgers does go, you still have Fields. So
check out running backs too. Each of these teams, except for 11, has 2 or more running backs, because running back is right now. Look at the left side of the board. There hasn't been a running back pick since James Conner, right? So running back right now is really tough. I mean, you've got free agents, you've got rookies. You'll see, Isaiah Spiller will probably be coming up here pretty soon, or
right.
Who knows? Singletary, is he be maybe next? But receiver, this is familiar. This is last year or other years. You have lots of interesting names, including Mooney, who we talked about, like the Denver guys. There are lots of interesting names at receiver. So I think that's where the best value is. That's how the draft seems to be almost all of the time. But that, right now, if these teams in the back half and I have quarterback figured out and 4 of the 6 have tight end figured out already too, receiver is where I'd want to be better.
Yep. Agreed.
And I'm not begging them by saying that to you. I'm not speaking directly to them. I'm just speaking to you.
Yeah,
you know, though, like look at the receiver core. As Team 10 has one.
Right.
You know, that's fine. It's just it's a stack too, but that's where you want to sort of fill out. I think is with the yellow.
Yeah, that's what they're looking to do. Make them pay.
Well, fun to look at these. Fun to be doing them.
Love it.
These FFPC drafts have been largely the focus of our show since last year when we launched the deep end. Even before that, with the Draft Sharks Invitational, we were talking about kind of the high stakes realm. And the point of this show was to try to appeal to people who are in that space and maybe help each other. We've had a lot of guests who play. That was always your objective with the show, was make it for the player. Have the people on, you know, a lot of shows will give you analysts, but we wanted the guys who've won money, who've put their real money in. And I think last year we did a lot of that, and we'll do more of that this year. That'll still be the focus. We want to be a little bit deeper, a little bit more. So we're going to add a second show each week for most of the year that will focus on Dynasty. We promise to even sort of trick up the logo so that it's clear whether you're watching the Deep End or you're watching Deep End Dynasty. You and I both love that. And we know, I'm not sure it's the area of fantasy football with the fastest growth rate or where there's the most growth, but it kind of feels like it is, because fantasy players more and more often seem, including myself in the last 5 years, Adam, seem to be realizing you can play year round. And, you know, why not do that? It's fun. Why not do that? So the Deep End Dynasty coming up on Thursdays, not this week, but coming up starting in a week or two, we'll have a second show a week for you.
Yeah, super excited to do that. Having a show completely dedicated to Dynasty, which is exploding, especially this time of year, because you can only do so many of you can only really talk about so many of these drafts, these underdogs and these 125s. Like, those are fun, but this time of year is for Dynasty, and we're gonna have guests on that are high stakes Dynasty players. We're gonna have guests on that are really good Dynasty analysts when it comes to evaluating rookies. We can bring that stuff to you guys. We had Jay Moyer on here last year. Bring guys like that back on the show. We're gonna, I'm in a couple Dynasty leagues. I know you are in a bunch, Mike. We can bring up a couple trade offers, talk about those on the air and stuff like that. And we'll take questions too. If people have, maybe some Dynasty trade questions, we can bring those up. I know I missed a couple questions here in the chat earlier. I apologize. We'll make sure we get those coming for Thursday nights Dynasty. We'll be doing 2 shows a week. We'll be grinding, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, and we are powered by Draft Sharks. There's a theme, a connection with Deep End and Draft Sharks, and we're thankful to them. And so for rankings and analysis, I know we'll be using the Draft Sharks website and their work a lot to try to, to start conversation and to sort of bounce ideas off of. So check them out too if you want to subscribe and get into their rankings, so we're all on the same page when we start. Probably next week. We'll see.
Mike, are you ready? Are you ready for our first Dynasty question?
Totally.
Are you ready? All right. Here it is. Would you trade Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin for Jamar Chase?
No.
Me either.
No. You've got. I love Gibson, and maybe Gibson hasn't even really hit yet. I mean, tons of volume the first year, some touchdowns, and then the second year was weird. But
I do want to prep, like, I don't know, how many receivers you got to start and all that. If this is FFPC stuff, it's generally what we do. You could probably do a little better than that, but I think it's probably a coin flip. Depends on how his receivers look. Depends on how his running backs look. But yeah, I really like Gibson this year, but Chase is obviously an absolute stud. So
Washington, I mean, you have 2 guys there on the same team. You might want to break that up somehow and trade one for the equivalent on another team. But if there's one team that maybe is the number one team for needing or should be wanting to go hard at quarterback, isn't it a team in a huge market with a new name that has just kind of been getting by at quarterback for how many years, right? Washington.
Yeah.
So can
Yeah.
they qualify for a Russell Wilson or a Rodgers? I mean, or a high draft pick, maybe they're a team like Chicago last year where they make that move up and do that. I mean, that team is ready or needing something like that. And to me, Gibson and Mclaurin are both guys who've got more to give.
Yes.
But on that team the last couple of years, they've been limited. Mclaurin is a big sigh, like he's great.
Yeah, so good.
Most weeks, what could you really count on?
He might be one of these guys that doesn't hit until his second contract or something because he needs to be on a team with a quarterback. But he came into the league super young, and I think he's going to be an asset for years to come. So
that's the other thing about the viewers' idea is you're trading a little bit low for peak in Chase. So you want to try to avoid that, I think.
Yeah.
Nothing against Chase. I mean, if you can get him.
Sure. I mean, you're not gonna cry yourself to sleep if you get Jamar Chase either. So
yeah. Who knows who the second guy is? That person would start.
Right.
When trading the two starters away and getting Chase added to his team. So good question.
Yeah.
One point on trades before we go, just quickly, since someone's brought it up. Because the last couple of years playing Dynasty, trading is all I ever wanted to do. Trading felt like being alive. And so you get into February and there's nothing else to do. So I got to make a trade. I got to find some way to get better. But what you realize when you do that and you play more is between March and August, a lot of things change and your trade doesn't look the same 6 months later and no games have happened. So the thing to think about, I think, is what is the value of what I'm giving up and how might that improve or change here in the next 6 months? Like take draft picks. The time to trade draft picks isn't now. It's in 2 months when you're closer to the draft and you get 2 months of hype on Isaiah Spiller and Breece Hall and, Garrett Wilson and all these guys. And people in your league will talk themselves into thinking that they got to give it up for all those guys. You don't want to give those picks away now when in 2 months they'll be worth more, maybe, not less.
Right.
So timing is key. I would say my advice would be try to find the discipline to not be in a big hurry when it comes to trade. You get a home run in February, take it. But otherwise, slow play.
Yeah, I am the LA Rams of Dynasty. I rarely have a first round rookie pick because I'm always trading them to try to get, to package them for deals and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I love the Dynasty and the wheeling and the dealing. And I know we're going to have a lot of smart people on here for our Dynasty podcast. It's amazing just to watch, people like, I know Louis we've had on here a couple of times. He's a big grinder. Scott Connor is another guy that we've had on a show that he has some great takes on on Twitter about how to value guys and kind of how to look at stuff certain ways in Dynasty that I don't really think that way that I need to start doing. And so it's going to be really fun to get more Dynasty content out there.
I'm in a draft right now with both of them. And I think I hate it. I don't know.
I think I hate my draft.
It's so many guys and there's just so much chat. I mean, I'm too old for the chat, Adam. It's the worst.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It just your soul just slowly dies reading the chat. You need to sort of stay up on it to find out, is it my turn or was there a trade or have the rules been changed? And then you look at your phone and 68 messages have been happening and they're all just like these three guys arguing about nothing.
Right.
And they can't spell and it's just come on. Like why do I have to subscribe to this? Just come on. Can we just have the chat be for things that are germane, things that matter to the league and not just like why, the guys who draft and then they tell you why their picks are going to work and yours are not. Like, let's just see, right? Let's just see.
I only want to be in dynasty leagues where there's a scramble, a golf scramble beforehand.
Oh,
those are the only.
We are doing that.
I want to be in.
Okay. We are doing that in May for Empire Niagara, a very highly coveted league. And we will be playing golf the day.
Can we get a camera crew to follow that motley crew around the golf course, please?
Yes.
Can we?
Because rookie drafts are so short. you have to put something else with it. And if you don't do the rookie draft in person, no matter how short it is, nobody in your league will ever hang out. Like you've got to sort of force that.
That's right. That's right.
So we don't take attendance at these social outings, but the golf idea is a good one.
Can you get Bulldog out there with a camera crew and just?
They cannot get that.
No. I could talk him into it.
You can try. He loves you. You might have that advantage over me.
I'm his long lost son. So
yeah, he has the utmost respect. He'd be the first person to say how much respect he has for you.
That's right.
Okay, everybody. So we're excited about Deep End Dynasty coming up. Before we get into that, though, we'll have another Deep End next week on Tuesday. That'll be a regular night, 8 or 8:30, one of the two. What was tonight? Like 8:20. So that wasn't either. But we will be here, and thank you for your questions. Both of us have our Twitter handles up, and ask us anything. All right, Adam. Nice to see you again.
Yes, it was great to be back, and I'm excited to get back into the swing of things.
Me too. Good luck in your draft. I'll let you know who I pick here in the next few minutes. Got to go watch the Olympics first and finish my wine, and then ponder the possibilities. Waiting on quarterback yet again. It's all I do. It's all I do is wait on quarterback. It's all I do. For Adam Krautwurst, I'm Mike Shope. Thanks for watching. See you next week in the Deep End.
See you guys.